What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. I am Ruthie Polinsky, back in action after missing last week, joined by my pal, my co-host, my friend, Alex Shapiro. Great to be back with you, sir. It is an exciting week in the NFL, never a dull moment, because just when you think things are getting slow, all the owners, all the GMs, all the head coaches, they're all in Palm Beach at the Breakers, living a real rough life.
Yeah, it seems so tough, just getting together and debating, I guess, rules and all sorts of stuff.
Having to do media, but like you're also in like the most gorgeous hotel in America, maybe on the beach and like the beautiful sunshine. It's fine. We're not envious. No, but listen, this is a fun week because you get to see sort of the interactions in a less stressful setting than you would see during the season when games matter and there are wins and losses and these coaches are competitors. Like you kind of get to see them interact as friends. Right. And this is why the most exciting part of the week happens right away, Alex Shapiro.
Yeah.
And we got it a little sooner than usual this year. Usually this happens on day 2, but yesterday was the head coach photo. And let me tell you something. I look forward to this thing every year. It's like Christmas morning when this thing comes up.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of disappointment in my soul this year, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
I first want to get your reaction to the photo. Obviously, these guys look just dapper. They're looking sharp, ready to go and debate all these things that they're going to talk about. Ben Johnson making his debut in the coach's photo. That's obviously exciting. He looks great. Thought Ben looked great. He looked comfortable.
Yeah.
But also off to the side, doesn't want to be the center of attention. He's just like doing his thing.
I would love to see how they figure out the seating chart. Like Andy Reid in the middle, Chiefs. Like that to me makes a ton of sense.
Next to Sirianni too.
Next to Sirianni and McVay. It's like, okay, I get that. But how do they figure out where everybody else like stands or sits?
Yeah, I wonder if there is assigned seating. That's always a good question because like sometimes you're like, Matt LaFleur and Mike McDaniel are good friends, so like they're sitting next to each other. Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson sitting next to each other. Like
that's nice.
That's cute. Let me tell you why I'm a little disappointed in the photo this year. First of all, it happened earlier, as I mentioned. Usually this photo happens, I think, on day 2 of the owners' weekend. So usually you kind of get, and usually this photo, Alex, is taken outdoors.
Yeah, inside with like a picture.
So let me tell you something. These guys look way too comfortable, and there's not enough content or material here to make fun of because they all look so good. It's well lit. They don't have the sun in their eyes. Maybe they're not hungover as they would have been, if they had all gone out the night before.
Right.
It just feels a little too polished for me, so that's sort of why I'm annoyed. It is really fun to see these guys sort of in this, setting. Obviously, after the off-season full of drama, you get to see sort of these things shake out. Liam Cohen, you look great. But like he's also standing next to his former boss, Todd Bowles. We know that didn't end well in Tampa. So Todd Bowles kind of giving him the shoulder, making sure he's showing you who's boss there. Kellen Moore just looks like a kid at the first day of school. Like, hey, happy to be here, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Dan Campbell just towering over Sean Payton and Tomlin.
Yeah, it's great. It's great material. How about Pete Carroll in between the Harbaughs?
Oh my God, and he looks so happy to be there. Look at Pete Carroll just beaming. I do love that as well.
Yeah, it's a cute photo. I was happy to see it. There's this, Ben Johnson sort of instigated this Matt LaFleur beef in his initial press conference. So I was interested to see where they were seated. They're just a couple seats apart there. I wonder if they kiss and made up or how that's going to go. Maybe this is a rivalry for the ages. Sirianni looks like he just got off the golf course. I mean, this guy is...
As he should be. He should be riding high forever.
Absolutely chilling.
Yeah.
Andy Reid, hands on the knees, just ready to rock. It's great. It's
also,
great
shout
content.
out Sirianni, the only guy whose shins we can see.
Shorts.
There could be guys in shorts in the back, but he's rocking the shorts while everybody else a little bit more dressed up.
All right. Well, thank you for entertaining us with letting us kind of get that off our chest. I had a lot to say there. But we're going to get into some of the hard-hitting football stuff here, too, as well. Obviously, a big part of this week is the rule proposals and potential changes that could be coming. Obviously, these all have to pass. As of right now, they're just proposals. They'll be presented and voted on and all over the course of the week. Let's start with the big one that's making headlines today, the tush push, which I think when this first came out, Alex, we were all sort of laughing at the fact that Green Bay was wanting to ban the tush push.
Right.
But it feels as though there's a lot of momentum behind the banning of this because of player health and safety. What are your thoughts on the tush push and its future in the NFL?
Well, yeah, as you said, 𝗂 and 𝗂𝗀 are reporting that there's a contingency of people who want to see this taken out of the game, which is interesting. To me, I don't get it. And from the player health and safety reason, which we've heard, according to 𝗂𝗀, it's all basically speculative. There's no data that says that this is a play in which players get injured at a higher rate than any other play. So there's that. And then there's it's a rugby play. I don't care. What do you mean it looks like a rugby play? Do you know what else is in rugby? Kicks and punts and all sorts of things of that. There's tackling in rugby. Like what? So that to me doesn't ring true either. It just seems like a jealousy thing. And again, this is something that a lot of people have thrown out. A lot of teams tried doing the tush push. We saw the Bears try and do the tush push. Not only with quarterbacks, they tried doing it with 𝗁𝗂. It did not work out, right? The Eagles are very, very good at it because they have a very, very strong quarterback in Jalen Hurts. It's not easy to replicate. But now something that is interesting, that is an argument against it, is that defensive players aren't allowed to push on defensive linemen. So here's my tweak. If we want this to be a consistency thing, hey, on defense we can't have linebackers pushing defensive linemen, but you can have other people pushing a quarterback. Why not, in these scenarios, allow the linebackers to push defensive linemen too? Football is a physical sport. At its core, it is about dominating the man in front of you. This is the play that most embodies that spirit, in my opinion. Just like, I'm going to get a half of a yard, try and stop me. To me, that is football. That is football, just imposing your will on somebody else. So I am pro tush push. If you don't like it, get better at it.
Okay, I think that's a fair argument. And I think a lot of people who love football and love the way that the game is played want less of what we're seeing this week. They don't want to see great plays that one team figured out how to execute perfectly. No other team has figured out how to stop it. It really changes the way that the game is played for a team. I think it's now up to the rest of the league to figure out how to stop it. With that being said, if there were data for the player health and safety, if there were numbers that could back up this, this could be very detrimental for the health and safety of the players in our league, I think a lot more people would be sitting here understanding where you're coming from. I can also get hit by a car walking across the street. There are a lot of things that could happen. This is a violent sport. It's a violent game. I think the tush push is something that's really quintessential Philadelphia Eagles. It's cool for this sort of generation of football to watch this come to fruition for that team. And it's literally how they won games and got to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl, was this particular play. I asked David Haugh this question on the Big Pro Football Show. I said, are the Eagles still the Eagles if there's no tush push? And I'm dead serious when I ask that question, because they call the game knowing that they are going to get a short yardage conversion. They know that they can convert on 4th and 1. They know they can convert on 3rd and 1. So now it's up to the rest of the league to figure out how to keep the Eagles from getting in those situations. So I like the tush push. I think I like the name.
It's got a nice ring to
it. It's fun. The tush push is fun. I think it's going to take a lot of votes. I think it's 24 votes. 24 people have to vote. They want this banned before it can, and that's a lot of votes when you think about, the Eagles aren't voting for it. And then I did read something that 𝗦𝗫 Sirianni said, all the guys who have come from his tree you better not be voting to ban this game, because to ban this play, because it got you your head coaching job, Kellen Moore. You better make sure that New Orleans isn't voting to ban the tush push. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. I think that's really the headline of all of these rule proposals. As we kind of look and see how this one plays out. Some of the other interesting ones, Alex, the touchback is potentially going to get moved to the 35-yard line. That was a new proposal. I think the way that the kickoff was tweaked in 2024 was really interesting, and I think they let it play out. It was tweaked to get more returns, right? I think they want to see even more returns in 2025, which is why they want to move the touchback to the 35-yard line to encourage more returns. What do you think of this proposal?
I like it. I think kickoffs are exciting plays. Special teams matters, right? The third phase. We don't want to see special teams go away. Devin Duvernay, Devin Hester, in Chicago, 2 Devins off the top of my head. There are a lot of great players who've made great careers off of special teams, and I don't want to see that disappear. And you mentioned the rule changes that went into effect last year. They were effective. This is from the NFL themselves. 2023, 21.8% of kicks were returned. That went up to 32.8%. So 11% increase in kickoffs, and it's also an increase in explosive kickoffs. There were 59 kickoffs that returned 40 or more yards last year. That was the most since 2016. So they want to keep tweaking and keep this headed in the right direction, right? They're changing the alignment. They're, as you said, moving the touchback from 30 to 35. So it's like, you sure you want to kick that out the end of the end zone?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like, to see the data. A lot of teams were more aggressive, and some teams went more conservative. Like the Colts, I believe, they didn't care. They just booted out of the back of the end zone more often than not. So I think it's great. I think the kickoff is an exciting play. I think this will help it be even more exciting.
I think it's really interesting, obviously, for, if they were to, I've also heard discussion of moving the kicker back, right? That's another possibility, which would be interesting for a team like the Chicago Bears, who have a kicker with a not super very accurate leg, but not a super strong leg. There are a lot of ways I think you can tweak the kickoff to continue to make this such a great part of the game, to the point where a lot of times you're seeing guys contribute to NFL rosters as back-end roster players who are just there to play special teams. I love the idea of bringing in a guy like a Devin Duvernay, who's a core special teamer, core returner, who's going to really affect and impact the game, and you're bringing him there for special teams. So I think that's really exciting, and I love seeing this continue to, the continued efforts to make this an exciting phase of the game. How about the overtime rules proposal? So lay this one out for us.
No-brainer, absolute no-brainer. So basically the proposal is to make the postseason overtime rules effective in the regular season as well. So right now, in the postseason, both offenses have to touch the ball, right? If an offense scores a touchdown, the next offense gets the chance to score a touchdown and keep overtime going. But in the regular season, if the offense, the team that gets the ball first, scores a touchdown, or obviously if like the defense gets a safety, that's just game over. It can be a walk-off touchdown, and the opposing offense does not get a chance to touch the ball. The overtime rules in postseason are just way better. Make it for every game. Why should it only be in the postseason?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for consistency, right? Yeah. Like I understand the stakes are higher in the postseason, but they should be high every game. There are only 17 games.
For now.
Yeah, and that's one other thing. Like, let me just, since we just brought that up, like player health and safety, and you're talking about adding another game.
Right.
Like, let's be consistent here. Like, let's make sure that we're like cohesive in the things that we're wanting to enhance or take away from the game to protect player health and safety. If you're gonna ban the tush push, why are we adding another game to risk the injury risk?
You would imagine, and this has been talked about a lot, you would imagine they would have to add another bye week just to allow guys to get healthy. It's still another game. It is another game. The wear and tear is real.
Yeah.
If they add an 18th game, there has to be another concession to keep players healthy. Because, keep it consistent.
Right. Let's fast forward here. There's a proposal to expand replay.
Yeah.
And this is really interesting. It expands the ways in which officials can pick up the flag using replay. There are 5 categories that they can pick up the flag in. It's tripping, face mask, horse collar, running into or roughing the kicker, and unnecessary roughness. So there's the technology, of course, now. There is replay. And you can now see if you called a penalty the wrong way. And if you want to pick up the flag, obviously this has been in the game now, but they're just expanding ways in which you can pick up the flag. Your thoughts?
Right. No, I think it's great, because it's these quote-unquote objective scenarios. DPI, there is some subjectivity. How much grabbing is too much grabbing when you're doing DPI? That, I think, would be a bridge too far. But a face mask is a face mask is a face mask. A horse collar is a horse collar is a horse collar. It's black and white whether or not a ball was touched before you ran into the kicker. So I like it. Get the calls right. Get as many of them right as you can, especially since, replays pretty quick. It's not like we've all been watching March Madness. It's not like college basketball when the replays just take forever. You're like, oh my God, what's going on? Why do we have to review every single out of bounds? It's not like that.
Yeah.
So I'm with it. Get the calls right.
Yeah.
I'm for expanded replay.
If you have the technology, you should be able to use it. Again, I agree with you. And these are obviously everything's objective until it's not, right? Like there's opinion in all of these things, but I do think that in these scenarios, tripping, face mask, horse collar, roughing the kicker, those are all things where I think replay would be really helpful to just make sure you're getting the game right. Just make sure you're getting the calls right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I got this little fun fact. Last year, if these rules would have been these would have been the regulations in 2024, this would have added an additional 11 flags for all games across all teams.
11 flags being picked up?
11 flags would have been picked up.
Yeah,
so it's very minute. It's very
tiny.
small, but it is worth noting how small that number is in terms of what we're talking about here.
Right.
How about, what were some of the other rules you were interested in? Eliminating the automatic first down on defensive holding illegal contact, coming from the Detroit Lions, who, by the way, led the league in that penalty last year.
Terrion Arnold is very, very pro this rule change. I'm actually not for it, and this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but to me it's like, what's stopping a team from just saying, okay, I'm going to play press man on you every single time, and if you beat me, then I'm going to grab you a little bit and disrupt the route that way. I just think it encourages people to get more handsy instead of just playing better defense, knowing you're not going to give up that automatic first down. In a 3rd and 20, you better believe I'm holding you, because I'm incentivized to do that, essentially. So to me, I think defensive holdings, illegal contact, things of those nature should probably still be an automatic first down.
I'm with you. I think, you gotta play within the rules. Just because you don't like a rule, like I understand, like this is the point of the game, but it's and the point of the week is to make the game better. This to me does nothing for the game except allow more ticky-tacky plays where it's not really giving players a fair chance. Playoff seeding.
Yes.
Okay, this is an interesting one and sort of a hot button issue, and I've sort of wavered on this one over the course of the last couple of weeks, but the rule proposal will allow teams who have a better record in the regular season than a division winner. It will allow the team with the best record to have a higher playoff seeding. So, in theory, the Minnesota Vikings last year would have had a higher seeding than potentially a division winner in the NFC.
Correct.
Your thoughts?
I am also not for this. I think winning your division matters. And obviously in this scenario, winning division, it gets you a playoff berth when potentially other wildcard teams with better records, they might miss out on that wild card, but since you won the division, you get the playoff berth. I understand that. I just still think that winning the division matters a lot. I mean, that's what you got to focus on first. First you win the division, then you win the conference, then you go to the Super Bowl. So win your division and get that playoff seeding.
And it's home field.
And it's home field.
That's huge, I think. You work so hard to win your division so that you can potentially have home field throughout the course of the postseason. And that's, the competition is the competition. Your schedule is the schedule. Sometimes divisions are harder or easier than other divisions. The Minnesota Vikings obviously being an outlier in that scenario because it was the toughest division in football last year.
Right.
But I think winning the division, there needs to be some incentive as to what that means, and you deserve to be rewarded for that regardless of the division you're in.
And it's cyclical for people being like, oh, the NFC North, that puts them at such a disadvantage. I mean, there are times when the NFC Central and the NFC North, making my point there, those were some lean years in that division. A division will be the best in football one year, and then 2 years later, it'll be the quote-unquote cupcake division. So these things cycle all the time.
Yeah.
And it works itself out.
The parity in the NFL, it's the best thing about it.
Yes.
1 year you can go from terrible to wonderful, which is why we love it.
Exactly.
That was fun. Do you have any other rules you wanted to talk about? I think we kind of hit on them all. Oh, the onside kick?
The onside kick. I'm with it. Now you can declare an onside kick in any quarter as long as you're trailing.
Well, that's the proposal. You can't actually do that.
Previously, or the way it's currently stated, you could only declare an onside kick if you're trailing in the fourth quarter. This will allow teams to declare an onside kick any quarter as long as they're trailing. I go even further. Declare an onside kick whenever you want. I think onside kicks are exciting. They're fun. Why can't you onside kick if you're winning? Let a team check it out. And obviously you have to declare an onside kick because of the new kick formation, new kickoff rules. Like, you got to give a team a chance to like line up properly. But I am pro onside kick.
I will need to do some more kind of understanding of this. Like, why would you risk giving the other team the ball at the 50-yard line or wherever you are if it's not without the game on the line? Like, every possession is so important. So I don't really understand.
Go ask Sean Payton, who did it in the Super Bowl out of halftime.
Well,
that's his prerogative.
It's the Super Bowl. I get it. And you're Sean Payton. But I'm just curious as to why teams want to do that, why this is important to them in this cycle. I don't know. Do you have any?
I have no insight on that whatsoever.
Okay.
other than I think
we have a lot of info
coaches
here.
should be able to onside kick whenever they want.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's an exciting part of the game that in the fourth quarter you have that option to do it. It makes it special, unique. Stakes are higher. And it's really sort of like, for lack of a better term, it's like a Hail Mary. It's like, here's our last shot, like, to be able to try and do this. Obviously, there are times where you're going to need to get a couple onside kicks in the fourth quarter. But I don't know. It doesn't really move the needle for me to be able to do it in the first quarter.
How about this off the dome? I mean, there have been games we've seen, team gets out to a 28-7 lead in halftime, and you're trying to play a little make it take it going into halftime, right? So
going into halftime,
right?
I see.
You get a field goal to make it 28-10. Let's see if we can get the onside kick right before half and tighten this game up.
I don't know the exact percentage off the top of my brain, but the percentage of onside kicks that work it's so small. This is such an, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it's something that's very urgent in my book of things that we need to change in the game. That's just where I stand on that. But hey, come at me. It's fine. Great stuff. Any other Bears headlines? What do you think of what Andy Reid said about Eric Bieniemy? Did you get a chance to see that?
Yeah.
One of the greatest leaders? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Really sung his high praises as a running backs coach, said Bears were lucky to have him. It is nice to hear, and we heard him say similar things at the Combine. But to be honest, like, it would be more newsworthy to me if Andy Reid had said, like, oh, I don't know about Eric Bieniemy. Like, to me, it's like,
of course,
coach says a nice thing about another former coach that he had.
Right.
But he did say, like, yeah, great leader, and addressed some of the, I guess, concerns that people have had about Eric Bieniemy, right? About him being like way too intense and this, that, and the other thing. So he did kind of address that, which is nice to hear. But coach says a nice thing about other coach to me. Yeah.
Shocker. Yeah, that's sort of the world we live in. Like, what do you expect him to say? Yeah. I get it. That's good stuff. I think we are expecting to hear from Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles, potentially George McCaskey, hopefully here in the coming hours, days, etc. So that'll be great. And we'll see you back here in a couple days. We'll see you on the Big Pro Football Show this week on CHSN. And that's going to wrap us up. We'll have Clay back here with us later this week. And we'll see if some of these rules passed. So we appreciate you for listening to the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University. For Alex Shapiro, I'm Ruthie Polinsky. We'll see you next time.